In this opening scene where Macbeth is debating whether or not to kill the king, there are a number of things to notice. First, remember that we're following thematically a number of different themes of darkness and of water imagery, unnatural imagery, baby imagery. All those things come up in this scene to one degree or another. We'll look at a few here. First, Banquo says at the very opening here, he says, "There's husbandry in heaven. Their candles are all out." He himself has a summons on him that wants to fall asleep, but he says, "I can't fall asleep because something's going to happen. I don't know what it is." And one of the indicators of something happening is he looks up and there are clouds covering the sky. And he says, "There's husbandry in heaven." They are snuffing out their candles in order not to lose the fuel of the fires of candles. But that's that image that goes back originally to what Macbeth says in Act 1 of "Stars, hide thy fires, let not light see my dark and deep desires." That harkens to that image of darkness, and also harkens to the image to a degree of liquid imagery, because it's like they're all being swallowed up by water. He himself, Banquo, refuses to go to sleep, primarily because he represents to a great degree the conscience of Macbeth, and he doesn't want to sleep lest something terrible happen. He has this inkling that something's going to happen. And it's at that moment that he meets Macbeth. And Macbeth says, "I'm a friend to my conscience." And Banquo says to Macbeth, "Have you thought about the weird sisters?" And Macbeth says, "Oh, I haven't thought about them at all," which is a lie, because he has, but he's covering up. He's covering up from his own conscience, from his own best friend, the fact that he has thought about these weird sisters. And he says, "I will give, if later on, I will talk with you about this issue, and I'll give you a prize or a present or an office if you agree with me." He says, "If you shall cleave to my consent when 'tis it shall make honor for you," right? You know, if you're willing to talk with me about some deeds of note, I will give you an office. To which Banquo says, "I'll gladly do it if it's not going to cause me dishonor." Obviously, Banquo is beginning to be a little suspicious of Macbeth. And it's at this point that when Macbeth and Banquo part, that Macbeth has his first vision, his first image of madness. It's the dagger scene, the famous dagger of the mind scene. And here he says, "Is this a dagger which I see before me? I'm looking at something that looks like a dagger that's leading me this way, and I can't grasp it, but it seems to be real. I see thee yet in form as palpable as this which now I draw. Thou marshallest me the way that I was going." The dagger is leading him in the direction he was thinking he was going in the first place. But the dagger is also something that's splitting his personality. He's becoming two people, a good and an evil, if you will, a conscious and an unconscious, an ego and an id. And that dagger represents that splitting of personality when you decide to do something evil. And he goes on to say, there's no such thing as this dagger. It doesn't really exist. But now that he's denied it, o'er the one half world, nature seems dead. Notice the nature imagery there, the change of nature. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings. At this point, Macbeth is beginning to descend into a world of darkness and magic, which will ultimately end in his ruin. And he ends the scene, after hearing this bell ring from Lady Macbeth, he ends the scene saying, "I will go and do that deed." The bell that he hears is very much like a representation of the bell of the other world, the breaking into this world of something from the other world. So the bell, like the knocking that occurs later, is like a breaking into that world. Don't do this, Macbeth. Stop. But he interprets it as something that summons him to kill Duncan. And he says, "Hear it not, Duncan. It is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell," which implies for him as well, this is the moment where he goes either to heaven, becomes a noble, virtuous, heroic character by not killing Duncan, or he goes down to hell by killing his king. We'll look at now the next scene, and be aware that in this scene, we have the murder itself, and Lady Macbeth's reaction to it, and then Macbeth's change of personality, if you will. Let's read the text together.